The Story of Civilization by Will and Ariel Durant. Chapter 14. The Foundations of India. 1. The scene of the drama. The rediscovery of India. Climatic influences. A glance at the map. Nothing should more deeply shame the modern student than the recency and inadequacy of his acquaintance with India. Here is a vast peninsula of nearly 2 million square miles, 2/3 as large as the United States, and 20 times the size of its master, Great Britain. 320 million souls, more than in all North and South America combined, or 1/5 of the population of the Earth. An impressive continuity of development and civilization from Mohenjo-Daro, 2900 BC or earlier, to Gandhi, Raman, and Tagore. Faiths compassing every stage, from barbarous idolatry to the most subtle and spiritual pantheism. Philosophers playing 1,000 variations on one monistic theme from the Upanishads 8 centuries before Christ to Shankara 8 centuries after him. Scientists developing astronomy 3,000 years ago and winning Nobel Prizes in our own time. A democratic constitution of untraceable antiquity in the villages, and wise and beneficent rulers like Ashoka and Akbar in the capitals. Minstrels singing great epics almost as old as Homer, and poets holding world audiences today. Artists raising gigantic temples and poets holding world audiences today. Artists raising gigantic temples for Hindu gods from Tibet to Ceylon and from Cambodia to Java. Or carving perfect palaces by the score for Mughal kings and queens. This is the India that patient scholarship is now opening up, like a new intellectual continent to that Western mind which only yesterday thought civilization an exclusively European thing. From the time of Megasthenes, who described India to Greece circa 302 BC, down to the 18th century, India was all a marvel and a mystery to Europe. Marco Polo, 1254 to 1323 AD, pictured its western fringe vaguely. Columbus blundered upon America in trying to reach it. Vasco da Gama sailed around Africa to rediscover it, and merchants spoke rapaciously of the wealth of the Indies. But scholars left the mine almost untapped. A Dutch missionary to India, Abraham Roger, made a beginning with his Open Door to the Hidden Heathenism, 1651. Dryden showed his alertness by writing the play Aurangzeb, 1675, and an Austrian monk, Fra Paolino de S. Bartolomeo, advanced the matter with 2 Sanskrit grammars and a treatise on the Systema Brahmanicum, 1792. In 1789, Sir William Jones opened his career as one of the greatest of Indologists by translating Kalidasa's Shakuntala. This translation, re-rendered into German in 1791, profoundly affected Herder and Goethe, and, through all the Schlegels, the entire Romantic movement, which hoped to find in the East all the mysticism and mystery that seemed to have died on the approach of science and enlightenment in the West. Jones startled the world of scholarship by declaring that Sanskrit was cousin to all the languages of Europe, and an indication of our racial kinship with the Vedic Hindus. These announcements almost created modern myth philology and ethnology. In 1805, Colebrooke's essay on the Vedas revealed to Europe the oldest product of Indian literature. And about the same time, Anquetil Duperson's translation of a Persian translation of the Upanishads acquainted Schelling and Schopenhauer with what the latter called the profoundest philosophy that he had ever read. Buddhism was practically unknown as a system of thought until Burnouf's Essai sur la Pali, 1826, i.e. on the language of the Buddhist documents. Burnouf in France, and his pupil Max Müller in England, roused scholars and philanthropists to make possible a translation of all the sacred books of the East, and Rhys Davids furthered this task by a lifetime devoted to the exposition of the literature of Buddhism. Despite and because of these labors, it has become clear that we have merely begun to know India. Our acquaintance with its literature is as limited as in the enthusiasm for our discovery. Is as limited as Europe's knowledge of Greek and Roman literature in the days of Charlemagne. Today, an English philosopher believes that Indian wisdom is the profoundest that exists, and a great novelist writes, "I have not found in Europe or America poets, thinkers, or popular readers equal or even comparable to those of India today." The word Indian will be used in this book as applying to India in general. The word Hindu, for variety's sake, will occasionally be used in the same sense, following the custom of the Persians and the Greeks. But where any confusion might result, Hindu will be used in its latter and stricter sense, as referring only to those inhabitants of India who, as distinct from Moslem Indians, accept one of the native faiths. The scene of the history is a great triangle narrowing down from the everlasting snows of the Himalayas to the eternal heat of Ceylon. In a corner of the left lies Persia, close akin to Vedic India in people, language, and gods. Following the northern frontier eastward, we strike Afghanistan. Here is Kandahar, the ancient Gandhara, where Greek and Hindu sculpture fused for a while, and then parted never to meet again. And north of it is Kabul, from which the Moslems and the Mughals made those bloody raids that gave them India for 1,000 years. Within the Indian frontier, a short day's ride from Kabul, is Peshawar, where the old northern habit of invading the south still exists. Note how near to India-Russia comes at the Parnirs and the passes of the Hindu Kush. Hereby will hang much politics. Directly at the northern tip of India is the province of Kashmir, whose very name recalls the ancient glory of India's textile crafts. South of it is the Punjab, i.e., land of the 5 rivers, with the great city of Lahore and Shimla, summer capital at the foot of the Himalayas, home of the snow. Through the western Punjab runs the mighty river Indus, 1,000 miles in length. Its name comes from the native word for river, Sindhu, which the Persians, changing it to Hindu, applied to all northern India in the word Hindustan, i.e., land of the rivers. Out of this Persian term, Hindu, the invading Greeks made for us the word India. From the Punjab, the Jumna and the Ganges flow leisurely to the southeast. The Jumna waters the new capital at Delhi and mirrors the Taj Mahal at Agra. The Ganges broadens down to the holy city, Benares, washes 10 million devotees daily, and fertilizes with its dozen mouths the province of Bengal and the old British capital at Calcutta. Still farther east is Burma, with the golden pagodas of Rangoon and the sunlit road to Mandalay. From Mandalay back across India to the western airport at Karachi is almost as long a flight as from New York to Los Angeles. South of the Indus, on such a flight, one would pass over Rajputana, land of the heroic Rajput, which, with its famed cities of Gwalior and Chittor, Jaipur, Ajmer, and Udaipur. South and west is the Presidency, or province, of Bombay, with teeming cities at Surat, Ahmedabad, Bombay, and Pune. East and south lie the progressive native-ruled states of Hyderabad and Mysore, with picturesque capitals of the same names. On the west coast is Goa, and on the eastern coast is Pondicherry, where the conquering British have left to the Portuguese and the French, respectively, a few square miles of territorial consolation. Along the Bay of Bengal, the Madras Presidency rules, with the well-governed city of Madras at its center, and the sublime and gloomy temples of Tanjore, Trichinopoli, Madura, and Rameshwaram adorning its southern boundaries. And then Adam's Bridge, a reef of sunken islands, beckons across to the Strait to Ceylon, where civilization flourished 1600 years ago. All these are a little part of India. We must conceive it then not as a nation like Egypt, Babylonia, or England, but as a continent, as populous and polyglot as Europe, and almost as varied in climate and race, in literature, philosophy, and art. The north is harassed by cold blasts from the Himalayas, and by the fogs that form when these blasts meet the southern sun. In the Punjab, the rivers have created great alluvial plains of unsurpassed fertility. But south of the river valleys, the sun rules as an unchecked despot. The plains are dry and bare, and require for their fruitful tillage no mere husbandry, but an almost stupefying slavery. Englishmen do not stay in India more than 5 years at a time, and if 100,000 of them rule 3,000 times their number of Hindus, it is because they have not stayed there long enough. Here and there, constituting 1/5 of the land, the primitive jungle remains, a breeding place of tigers, leopards, wolves, and snakes. In the southern third, or Deccan, the heat is drier, or is tempered with breezes from the sea. But from Delhi to Ceylon, the dominating fact in India is heat. Heat that has weakened the physique, shortened the youth, and affected the quietist religion and philosophy of the inhabitants. The only relief from this heat is to sit still, to do nothing, to desire nothing. Or in the summer months, the monsoon wind may bring cooling moisture and fertilizing rain from the east. When the monsoon fails to blow, India starves and dreams of nirvana.